In a luxurious hall inside a palace, a woman named Origin was reading a fantasy story to her daughter Ellen about an ancient kingdom called Tinball, where people lived in peace until one day when monsters invaded their land. To protect his people, the king summoned the strongest spirit in the kingdom. The spirit fought alongside a brave hero, but the number of monsters was overwhelming. The hero, injured, begged her to use all her power at once, no matter what would happen to him. She complied and wiped out all the monsters, but unfortunately, her tremendous power left the hero with severe wounds. Fearing for his life, the spirit told him she wouldn't let him die, carrying him to her own world and promising to return him one day when peace reigned again. Ellen listened to this story as she grew up, while at another place, a mother was telling her child the same tale. When the child asked what happened to the hero, Ellen shouted that the hero had indeed returned. At that moment, her father, Raffle, hurried to silence her while ordering some kebabs from a vendor in the market. Ellen asked when they would return home, and Raffle sighed, saying it wasn't that simple. As he was about to leave with the food, one of the guards recognized his face, and Raffle panicked and fled, evading carts and sneaking into a dark alley, only to find the way blocked. The guards, overjoyed to see him alive, chased after him, but before they could say anything, Raffle suddenly vanished before their eyes. Moments later, Raffle appeared under a bridge. Ellen asked him why he was running from people, and he burst into tears, confessing that he could no longer bear their looks at him as a legendary hero, and that the burden of expectations weighed heavily upon him. They had made him a hero without his knowledge. Ellen watched him cry like a small child, and said that her father was the legendary hero, and there was more to the story that no one knew. After falling into a long coma when the spirit took him, it was her mother, the spirit Origin, who healed him completely. Over time, feelings of love grew between Raffle and Origin, and they married. Through this bond, Raffle gained part of the spirit's nature, and then he could not control his new powers. So, he spent years training in the spirit world until he finally managed to return to the human realm. Now with Ellen by his side, the girl was hiding another secret. She wasn't actually named Ellen. She came from another world where she had once been a Japanese scientist dedicated to studying the elements and pursuing discoveries. However, she died in that world and became the daughter of Origin and Raffle. Now, like her father, she was learning to control her magic. While Raffle was worried about people's reactions to using his power in front of them, Ellen told him he had to face everyone and greet them until they left him alone. But he refused, fearing things would get worse. At that moment, his old guard Alberto appeared under the bridge. Raffle tried to flee, but Ellen stopped him, and then her father began to boast about his little daughter, describing her as the most beautiful, which puzzled Alberto, though he acknowledged her cuteness. Then Alberto handed him a message. The family of Duke Vancraft, to which Raffle's lineage belonged, had been waiting for him for a long time. Raffle looked confused at the title of Duke, and Alberto explained that the kingdom had granted his family nobility after Raffle had defeated the monsters in the past, and that his younger brother, Sauful, was now in charge. However, troubles began to arise, as Sauful's wife, Agile, was causing disturbances in the palace. The mention of her name shocked Raffle. Alberto clarified that the king had forced Sauful to marry her, and he had no choice. Nevertheless, Raffle refused to return or meet her, leaving Alberto disappointed. Then Ellen looked at her father and told him that people still cared about him, and everyone was waiting for him. She said that he didn't value his family as he should, even stating angrily that she hated him. Raffle panicked and begged her not to say that, promising her in front of Alberto that he would return if she forgave him. After she agreed, everyone climbed into the carriage and set off on their way. During the journey, Ellen asked about Agile, and Alberto told her that she was the second princess of the kingdom of Tinball. Her father said she was his arrogant ex-fiancé, who always acted as though marrying him was a favor. But when the monsters attacked the kingdom, Raffle had proposed to Agile, thinking he wouldn't survive the battle. However, once Sauful became a duke, Agile changed her mind and demanded to marry him instead of his brother. At that point, Alberto admitted he still felt bitter because Raffle had disappeared in the spirit world and left them behind. Raffle then realized that Alberto wanted him to expel Agile from the family, which the latter confirmed, explaining that she was on the verge of bankrupting them due to her extravagant spending. Then Raffle decided to change their destination and went to another place, where upon entering, the priest's face showed astonishment at seeing him alive. Raffle asked him to perform a wedding ceremony immediately. The priest asked if it was better to hold it in the capital, but Raffle insisted it should be done right away. Ellen was surprised by his urgency, and he confessed to her that he merely wanted to put Agile in her rightful place. When the priest asked about the bride, Raffle summoned his wife Origin from the spirit world. A glowing portal opened, and Origin stepped out. Raffle apologized for the simplicity of the ceremony, but she smiled and said she was just happy to marry him again in the human world. The ceremony began amidst Alberto's and the priest's amazement. Raffle explained that Origin was a spirit, and that by marrying her, he had also become half a spirit. The priest requested their vows, and they signed the documents, becoming a legally recognized couple. Moved by the scene, Ellen asked them to extend their hands, using the platinum element to form wedding rings. Then she added a glittering gem of diamond to her mother's ring, and ended the scene by releasing sparkling diamond dust that filled the church with a magical shine. Raffle and Origin were deeply touched by her gift. As the priest officially announced their marriage, Alberto stood in shock at Ellen's power. After they finished, Ellen handed the priest the remaining diamonds with a smile, bringing him to tears of joy before rushing to her father, calling him wonderful, making Raffle smile smugly and ruining the moment, while Ellen scowled at him. Meanwhile, Alberto tried to remedy the situation by shyly congratulating the newlyweds. Then, Raffle asked Origin to take Ellen to the spirit world for her safety, fearing that Agile would attack her for revenge. Ellen was surprised by this. He told her she could follow him via a magic mirror. Origin reluctantly agreed, wishing she could deal with Agile herself. Ellen was amazed at how much her parents hated that woman. Raffle told her that Agile was his greatest enemy, also admitting that he feared the royal family might someday try to use Ellen for a political marriage. Alberto was surprised, especially since Ellen was still a child, but Raffle insisted he wouldn't risk his daughter's future. After bidding farewell, he left with Alberto in the carriage. Then Raffle stepped out of the carriage, looking hesitant as if he wanted to return, but Origin firmly scolded him, urging him to act like a man and finish what he started. After he left, Origin and Ellen returned to the spirit world and set up a magic mirror to follow his journey. Inside the carriage, Alberto remembered the truth about Agile. She had forced Raffle to marry her in the past, treating him cruelly and extravagantly until the monster war gave him a chance to escape her grip, leading him to break off the engagement, infuriating her. She sent him into the battlefield and positioned him on the front lines due to her influence, where his father was killed. There, Origin rescued him and transported him to her world. Alberto felt guilty for not protecting him back then, but Raffle forgave him, affirming he too bore responsibility for leaving everything behind. When the carriage entered the town, banners waved with Raffle's name, and crowds applauded the returning hero. They reached the family palace, where Raffle dismounted to greet the crowd, and afterwards, guards and servants lined up, bowing in respect, as the head servant warmly welcomed him and invited him inside. But suddenly, a loud voice rang out in the hall, and a woman rushed down the stairs, slipping and rolling like a ball until she fell to the ground. The head servant ignored her, pretending he hadn't seen anything, while Raffle stared at her in shock, wondering who she was. To his dismay, the woman turned out to be Agile herself, now quite overweight. She tried to embrace him, but he stepped back in disgust. However, she ignored his reaction, insisting that her father forced her to marry Saufel, but now Raffle was finally back to be with her. Raffle faced her with a cold gaze, questioning what nonsense she was saying. On the other side, Origin was watching the scene through the magic mirror, burning with anger at Agile's actions. Ellen quickly rushed to calm her down, pleading, "Mom, don't burn down the palace." Origin took a deep breath and regained her composure, but warned her daughter that this rude woman was indeed Agile, her father's worst enemy. After that, Agile called out to her daughter, whom she claimed was Emil, dramatically presenting her to everyone, announcing that Raffle was her true father and the hero who saved the kingdom. Emil rushed excitedly towards Raffle while calling him Daddy, but Ellen, his real daughter, couldn't handle it. She exploded in anger, shouting that she was the only one allowed to call him that, but her mother calmed her, saying she understood Ellen's frustration over not being next to her husband to support him. Then we see Agile smile arrogantly, bragging to Raffle that Emil was as sweet and beautiful as her mother. At that moment, Raffle asked if the girl was truly Saufel's daughter, and the servant evaded the answer, saying he couldn't disclose that information. Tension filled the air until Saufel himself entered, tears streaming down his face at seeing his brother Raffle after 10 years of separation. Raffle remarked that his brother resembled their late father a lot, while he apologized to Raffle for leaving him alone to bear the family burdens all those years. But the tender moment didn't last long, as Agile suddenly approached Saufel, demanding an immediate divorce. Then Saufel began to attack her, calling her ugly and accusing her of squandering the Vancraft family's wealth. Agile retorted angrily, insisting that her spending was for their benefit, but Saufel was furious and told her that it was the people's money. Agile scoffed at his words, reminding everyone that she was royalty and that her lavish spending was necessary to maintain their family's social status. Saufel's anger flared, but Raffel calmly intervened, asking his brother not to air their family problems in front of people. Agile thought he was supporting her, so she smiled happily and praised him, saying he was the only one who truly understood her. Raffel then looked at Saufel and coldly said they needed a private talk, then announced that he would head to the royal palace the next day, asking his head servant Lauren to inform the royal family and the Ministry of Justice about this. Saufel asked in surprise why the Ministry of Justice was being involved, to which Raffel calmly replied that they would finalize the divorce proceedings tomorrow. Agile's face lit up, thinking he was paving the way for their marriage, promising him with a fake smile that she would wait for him at dinner. After she left, Ellen sighed, saying the situation was worse than they had thought. Then Saufel apologized for what had happened, but Raffel reassured him that he knew all the details from Alberto beforehand and firmly declared that Agile's tyranny would end tomorrow and they would get rid of her and her daughter. He asked if Emile was truly his daughter, to which Saufel lowered his head, saying he didn't know. He had been completely drunk on the night of their wedding, about to break down in despair after a forced marriage, and it was likely that it was a scheme. Raffel smiled lightly, considering this a point in their favor, especially since Agile herself hadn't confirmed that the child was Saufel's. He pointed out that she believed Raffel would marry her and become her daughter's father, and then clarified his plan. During the divorce session, Saufel had to remain silent and deny remembering any relationship with her, for with her own lies, Agile would destroy herself. Raffel reassured his brother, saying he should leave everything to him. Saufel was deeply affected, thanking his brother warmly. He then asked him where he had been all those years. Rufel replied that he had been in the spirit world, where he married the spirit queen, Origin, and they had a daughter named Ellen, asking everyone to keep their secret for now. This confession encouraged his brother to share his own secret, as Saufel confessed that he also had a daughter with a common woman whom he loved sincerely. Rufel told him that once their issues were resolved, he could bring her to the palace, which shocked Saufel since his beloved was from the common folk. Rufel smiled, reassuring him that love is not measured by status, and promised to help him earn the society's recognition of their relationship. Nostalgia washed over Saufel as he reminisced about the burden of the past 10 years, saying he no longer felt worthy of leading the family, pleading with Rufel to return and head it once again. However, Rufel kindly refused, explaining that he had become half a spirit and did not see it as his right to rule the human realm. That was the concern of the humans themselves. Saufel's desperation grew as he pleaded with his brother not to abandon him again, saying they could manage things together. Rufel hesitated for a moment, then his wife and daughter decided to support him. Origin and Ellen suddenly appeared, shocking everyone. Origin sternly asked him why he hesitated, while Ellen clearly stated that she hated having a father who does not value his family. Confronted by the words of his wife and daughter, Rufel proudly introduced them to Saufel, explaining that he had been worried about them all along. Elin stressed the need for him to value his family more, and he finally relented, promising to remain as his brother's aide and not to leave again. Saufel smiled in deep relief, while Lauren expressed his joy at meeting Rufel's family. Elin charmed him, and he asked her to call him Grandpa, which upset Rufel, but Lauren didn't care, and decided he was now her grandpa, and told her to ask him for whatever she wanted. Everyone exchanged laughter and joy in a rare family moment, while Saufel and the rest watched Rufel and his family smiling, happy to see true happiness return to Rufel's face. Meanwhile, the corridors of the royal palace were buzzing with anxiety due to Rufel's return. The officials feared the consequences, and the king requested the summoning of Raphael, who began to inform the king of his mistakes, especially since they had previously forced Agil to marry into the Vancraft family. He warned against repeating the same error, emphasizing that Rufel was no longer the same, and that his power should not be underestimated, nor should he be provoked, as he was now also important to the kingdom. The king was tense and asked what he should do. Raphael replied that there was only one solution. The next day, Rufel stood before the king. The king welcomed him, indicating he wanted to give him a gift as part of his reward for past services. Rufel made two demands: to end the royal family's interference in his family's affairs forever, and for the king himself to attend the divorce session between Saufel and Agil. Raphael interpreted Rufel's demands as a clear declaration of his separation from the crown and distancing from the royal family's authority. But Rufel escalated the situation further when he revealed that Agil herself had requested the divorce because she wanted to marry another man. This shocked the king. At that moment, Raphael stepped forward, saying he would continue the conversation from there. From the spirit world, Aelin watched the scene through the magic mirror and quickly sensed the malice hidden in Raphael's heart, which Origin confirmed, stating he was a man of dark intentions. The Crown Prince suggested a political settlement. They would agree to Rufel's demands, provided the Van Creeft family continued to support the kingdom with their magical strength in its defense. Rufel coldly responded that he was no longer the head of the family, and that the final decision belonged to Saufel. Raphael respected this and said he would attend the divorce ceremony to finalize the agreement. When Rufel was leaving, Elin noticed a dark aura surrounding Raphael. Origin explained that the royal family had been cursed long ago because one of their ancestors tried to subjugate spirits to his authority and deserved their curse. Since then, the annual Festival of Spirits they held had become a meaningless, empty ritual. As with generations, they no longer remembered what had happened or the sin they had committed. The spirits no longer responded to them. As for Rufel, he was different since childhood in the 7th year of his life. He understood spirits with rare clarity, which is why Origin loved him and bound his soul to an eternal covenant with her. Elin was shocked by this, but it was a reality. The next day, the arbitration session in the divorce case began. Agil entered with arrogant confidence, announcing to the judges her desire to separate from Saufel because she wanted to marry her true fiancé, Roel Van Creeft. She even went further to claim that her daughter, Emile, is Rufel's daughter. The judge turned to Rufel, who calmly and firmly refuted her claim. He explained that he had been in the spirit world for the past 10 years, making it impossible for him to be the father of an 8-year-old child. The judge then used Agil's previous statements against her, as she had denied that Saufel was the child's father. The judge then announced her divorce from Saufel, and Agil was happy. The verdict was issued rapidly and unexpectedly. The divorce was approved, but due to her confirmed infidelity and unjust extravagance, she was sentenced to eternal deprivation of marriage again. In a moment of shock, glowing magical engravings appeared on her skin, a mark of punishment preventing her from approaching any man. Agil screamed, asking for help from Rufel, but he looked at her coldly and said this was the judgment she deserved. As for her father, the king, and the crown prince, they merely apologized for her foolishness. Then the session was concluded amid her desperate cries. Later, the crown prince faced Rufel with a sly smile, saying he was completely satisfied with the outcome, as his sister's fate weakened his father's position and paved the way for his ascension to the throne. He also revealed that he knew about Rufel's secret family and suggested a political meeting between his son and Aelin. Rufel firmly rejected the idea, reminding the crown prince of the reward he promised him, namely, the respect for his family's independence. He sternly warned him against approaching the Van Creeft family again, or else he would face the wrath of the spirits themselves. Upon returning to the palace, Rufel wasted no time. He furiously ordered his chief servant, Lauren, to summon Alberto immediately. Albert entered Rufel's room and greeted him, informing him that Lord Saufel returned early today and had made an offer for a celebration due to his return. However, Rufel interrupted Albert's speech and then asked Albert whether he worked for the family or not, stating he did not want to anger him. He also informed him that he had been relieved of his duties as Saufel's personal guard and that he was on leave for a while. Albert left the room without voicing any objections to this matter, but Rufel remained angry. Next, we moved to another room where Saufel was with his mother. Rufel entered, and his mother was surprised by his presence, not believing it at first, asking him if he had truly returned. Rufel embraced his mother, reassuring her, which led to her feeling great joy. He then apologized to her for being away for such a long time, but Rufel's mother believed that he had not returned because he did not want to marry Agil. Rufel confirmed his mother's words, but she did not wish for Saufel to marry Agil either. However, the mother was now assured about her sons, since Rufel had expelled her from the palace. Saufel then asked Rorn to ensure that all of Agil's belongings were sent from the palace to her castle. Saufel asked Rorn about Albert, but Rorn could not answer and looked at Rufel. Rufel informed Saufel that he had stopped Albert from working because he could not be trusted and was relaying all their information. Saufel requested more clarification on the matter. Rufel then confessed to his mother that he was married and had a daughter, and that his wife was a spirit, a fact only known to a select few. Prince Raphael wanted to know his son's intentions towards his daughter. Rufel's mother then asked if he thought Albert was the one who informed Raphael of this information. Rufel was sure of it because the royal family suffered from a curse, preventing them from dealing with spirits, believing Raphael wanted to resolve this issue through Eileen. Rorn asked Rufel if he believed Albert was exploiting Eileen as a bargaining chip. This angered Rorn, and he asked Rufel to kill him. him, but Rufiel refused because it was against his father's feelings. Saufel then told them that Albert owed a debt of gratitude to his father and believed he wanted to know the royal family's intentions towards Agel. Saufel apologized to his brother Rufiel for being the cause of all this. Rufiel stated that now the community must know about his wife and daughter, but Rufiel's mother asked if he had forgotten that she should be introduced to his wife and daughter first. We then shift to Ori and Eileen in the other world. Ori was very excited to meet Rufiel's mother, but Eileen asked Ori if she felt scared about meeting Rufiel's mother. Ori did not feel that way at all, but Eileen asked her what if Rufiel's mother was scary. Ori said she wouldn't have a problem, as if she found her scary, she wouldn't meet her again. However, Eileen always felt that Ori took things lightly. Next, we return to Rufiel's home, where Rufiel's mother asked him when he would introduce his wife and daughter. Rufiel called for Ori and Eileen, causing them to appear from the other world. Rufiel missed his daughter Eileen very much. He introduced his daughter and wife to his mother, who asked Rufiel if this was the spirit he married. Ori greeted Rufiel's mother and told her that in their world, she is known as Mum of all things, which astonished Rufiel's mother. Ori then informed Rufiel's mother that her granddaughter Eileen would be the queen of the next spirit world and asked her to welcome them both warmly. Eileen introduced herself to her grandmother, who welcomed her, leading to Rufiel's mother being extremely impressed. Rufiel's mother then asked Eileen to call her Nana, but Eileen hesitated. However, she eventually called her that, which made Rufiel's mother overwhelmingly happy, and she embraced her immediately, causing Rorn to have great admiration for Eileen. Then Eileen called Rorn Grandpa, surprising Rufiel's mother, who told Rorn that his taste was extraordinary since it made Eileen call him that. Rorn felt youthful every time Eileen addressed him like that, and Rufiel noticed how much they admired Eileen. Night fell, and desserts were served to Rufiel and his family, bringing Eileen great joy due to the sweets. However, she suddenly calmed down after being happy because she thought she was still in a trial period, which intrigued Rufiel's mother. She asked Eileen what made her quiet now. Eileen drank tea quietly and asked Rorn if the dining etiquette in the spirit world was similar to theirs. Ori replied that they rarely ate food. Then Ori asked Rufiel if he had taught Eileen dining etiquette, but Rufiel answered no. Eileen then started to eat sweets, and Rufiel's mother fed her as well, but Rufiel asked his mother to stop so that Eileen wouldn't spoil her appetite for dinner. Rufiel asked Saufel if he wanted him to help with business matters, as he was not from the city's Fausen, which excited Saufel about the idea. However, Rufiel also told them that he would not live with them due to Eileen's and Ori's presence. Rufiel's mother wondered about the reason for this. Ori explained that her presence would affect her great power in the human world, and that her harvesting ability could easily turn this place into a forest. Rufiel's mother asked what Eileen's power was. Before Eileen could answer, she looked at her mother, but Ori allowed her to respond. Eileen told her grandmother that she could control the elements, which are the building blocks of matter, and she started explaining that the number of possible combinations was countless since most materials are made from those combinations, shocking the rest of the family. Eileen then showed them coal, and told them that she could use her power to turn it into diamonds. Ori was astonished that this diamond was also the one her ring was made of. Eileen approached with the diamond to show it to the rest of the family, and they were completely amazed. Rufiel told them that it was still hard to understand this matter. Saufel then asked Eileen if she could produce metals in large amounts. Eileen confirmed that she could, and produced a significant amount of gold, shocking the others. She requested Saufel to sell it, but Rufiel's mother refused this idea because they should not put something like this into the world as it is rare. Eileen took the diamond from Saufel and made a gift for her grandmother, causing her to be astonished too, while Saufel and Ori also asked Eileen what she would do with the mountain of gold she had created, as she had produced more than necessary. Eileen said she would be careful afterward. Rufiel suggested giving the gold to Saufel to use for public funds to serve the people, and Saufel agreed to take it. However, Eileen thought that this could confuse the market and suggested that it would be better to mix it with some impurities before selling it. Rorn asked Eileen if she minded this, but Eileen didn't mind at all and asked Rorn to buy her another cake, which Rorn did not oppose. Saufel felt that Eileen's power was very good, and Rufiel knew this, and also realized that if the royal family learned of her strength, it would lead to big problems. Rufiel's mother suggested that no one should reveal anything about Eileen, and they decided they would sell the gold and that they should prepare a source for it. Then, Ellen suggested that if they owned a mine, they could make it seem like it was extracted from the mine, which shocked them with this proposal. Ruvel's mother told Ellen that she was very clever, and when Ellen learned that they owned a small mine, she also suggested including some things taken from it to avoid suspicion. Then she she offered to help them with any business matters, saying she was ready for that, but Ruvel asked her to stop and calm down a bit. After that, Ruvel and his family gathered with the servants, and Saufil mentioned that Agil had returned to her castle, and also told them that Ruvel had come back with his family, and that they would throw a party tonight to celebrate Ruvel's return. Then Ruvel apologized to them for his long absence, and thanked them for organizing this party for him. Saufil allowed them to drink and enjoy the party, which led to everyone's happiness and a lot of sweets being offered to Ellen and Yuri. And then Rorn asked Ellen if she wanted more juice. Ellen told Rorn that the food was delicious, and Rorn said he should thank the cook. Rorn then noted what Ellen had said, which surprised her. Ellen asked Rorn what he was writing, but Rorn replied that he was noting everything she liked, which made Ellen happy. Then Saufil approached and told Rorn that his facial expressions were starting to fade, but Rorn thought that was natural due to Ellen being among them, and for him, it was great. Ruvel's mother noticed that Ellen understood the servants very well due to her intelligence. Next, we moved to Ravicel's castle, where Alberto was with him. Alberto informed Ravicel that he would stop providing him with any information about Ruvel's family because he had been discovered by Ruvel and was also expelled. However, Ravicel had expected this from Ruvel since he was a very clever person. Ravicel asked Alberto if he had spoken with Ellen and if he could perform one last task for him. Then we moved to Ruvel's house, where Ruvel's mother told Saufil that the party was wonderful, but Ellen had fallen asleep. Ruvel suggested to Yuri that they go to the spirit world, and when Yuri agreed, both Ruvel's mother and Rorn were shocked because they would return quickly, but Yuri shouldn't stay any longer to prevent the realm from turning into a forest. After feeling sadness due to Yuri and Ruvel going to the spirit world, Ruvel's mother and Rorn asked if they would take Ellen with them, but Ruvel told them that Ellen did not have the same strength as Yuri, so she could possibly stay with them. Ruvel's mother agreed to Ellen staying with them, and suggested to Ellen that she stay with them to enjoy the human world more. Here, Ellen discovered that Ruvel wanted to spend some time alone with Yuri, and she said she would stay with them, which shocked Ruvel. He then told them they would come back tomorrow morning. Ellen then felt sleepy and asked Ruvel's mother if she wanted to sleep with her in her room. When Ellen agreed, Rorn told them he would prepare the room for them right away. Then Ruvel's mother asked Ellen to go ahead to bed. Next, we moved to Ellen's room where she was sleeping, and Alberto came to her and woke her up, giving her a message from King Ravicel. When Ellen learned it was Ravicel, she remembered her father's talk about him, and that Ravicel wanted to use Ellen to prevent the royal curse from dealing with spirits. When Ellen returned to the present, she asked Alberto if he hated her family. However, Alberto replied that he did not hate them at all. Ellen told Alberto that Ruvel was very angry with him for what he did, and Alberto was aware of this. However, Ellen saw that Ruvel thought Alberto's actions were well-intentioned, but considered them an unwelcome interference in his and others' eyes. She and her father were half human and half spirit, and this was seen as a valuable treasure by the royal family, but for Ruvel's family, it was a huge and very annoying burden because the royal family did not realize its mistakes at all, and the curse circle never ended. They forgot how they angered the spirits, which could only be called arrogance. Ellen asked Alberto if this invitation was from Ravicel, and asked him to cut ties with him immediately, because if Ruvel learned about this, he would punish him at once. Ellen saw that Ravicel did not care about Alberto at all, and that he also didn't mind if Alberto was expelled from Ruvel's family. Ellen asked Alberto if he felt grateful to her, to reconsider his priorities first, and what was most important. Then, Alberto apologized to Ellen, and here Ellen thought that her father realized what had happened, and was now watching them from somewhere. She told Alberto that she would persuade her father, and asked him to tell Ravicel that she rejected his invitation, so that her father would not be angry. Then she burned it. The next day, Ellen was sitting at the dining table, when suddenly her grandmother hugged her tightly, while Rorn was preparing tea for them. Then Rorn served tea to Ellen, and when Ellen thanked Rorn, both Rorn and Isabel felt the great love coming from Ellen. Then Ruvel returned from the spirit world and greeted them. Ellen asked Ruvel if he had a good time with Yuri, but Ruvel told her it was not as she thought, and asked Ellen if she wanted to tell him something. Then Ellen told Ruvel that Alberto had cut his ties with Ravicel, and asked him to lift the suspension on him, which made Ruvel angry, but he didn't finish what he was saying. Ellen asked Ruvel if he had anything to say, but Isabel wondered what was happening. Then Ellen said that Ruvel had left her yesterday at the palace because he knew there would be a messenger from Ravicel's castle visiting her yesterday. Then Isabel asked for a detailed explanation from Ruvel, but he couldn't speak. Ellen noticed that Ruvel was overprotective of her, and she also realized that Ravicel, after learning of her existence, would never leave her at all, and she had burned the message without reading it, which surprised Isabel and made her question how she could do that. But Ellen did this to respond to Rouvel's behavior. After that, Ellen asked Rouvel to have a decent conversation with Alberto, and that she wouldn't speak with him until he did so, which made Rouvel feel frightened. He asked her not to do that. Then Rouvel left the room, followed by Rorn. It became clear that Rouvel could not keep up with his daughter, but Rorn saw it as hard to believe that Ellen was this smart at her age. This led Rouvel to ask Rorn which side he was on, and without hesitation, Rorn replied that he was on Ellen's side. Rorn told Rouvel that he now assumed he understood what Ellen meant, but Rouvel understood that the reason for Ellen burning the paper was so there would be no evidence of Alberto's connection to Ravicel, and that she had just saved Alberto now. Rouvel wondered where this intelligence came from, and Rorn told him that she was a perfect copy of him. Next, we moved to Ravicel's palace, where he was angry about Ellen burning his letter. Then Alberto informed Ravicel that this was the last time he would meet with him. Alberto left, and Ravicel thought that Ellen understood his intentions, and that she had responded to him more harshly than reality, reminding him of how he used to communicate with Rouvel previously, and that he now desired her much more than before because she held the key to the puzzle that the royal family had failed to resolve with the spirits. Alberto entered Rouvel's room, but Rouvel was still angry with him because he knew about the existing conflict between the two families. Alberto asked whether his relationship with Ravicel had been cut off, and Alberto confirmed that it had. However, Rouvel knew that Alberto wasn't aware of the conflict between the royal family and the spirits, and that he had placed spies on Eileen through the royal family. But Rouvel carried out Eileen's request because if he didn't talk to Alberto, she wouldn't talk to him afterward. Rouvel understood very well why Eileen burned Prince Raficel's letter without reading it, and why she didn't care about its contents. Now there was no evidence proving it came from Ravicel, or that Alberto had delivered it to Eileen in the first place. Then Alberto asked Rouvel, "Eileen saved me, didn't she?" But Rouvel told him that he had been saved first by her father, and now by his daughter. Alberto thanked and apologized to Rouvel, but Rouvel told him he would send him back as a guard to Salvile again, though under surveillance, because he no longer trusted him. Before leaving the room, Rouvel told Alberto to be grateful to Eileen. While Alberto was alone, he remembered how Mr. Barville had saved him, and how Barville died because of it, which made Alberto angry. Then the scene moved to Eileen with her grandmother. Eileen thanked Roran for the wonderful tea. Rouvel joined them and warmly greeted Eileen, but she ignored him and hid behind her grandmother, which saddened Rouvel. He asked her, "Why are you treating me like this?" The grandmother in turn asked Rouvel, "Did you talk to Alberto?" Rouvel told them that the suspension was lifted and pleaded with Eileen to look at him. He asked if she could forgive him. Eileen told Rouvel he should be more clear with people about what causes problems and what doesn't, since humans and spirits differ in values. After realizing she was right, Rouvel regretted misunderstanding her earlier, and Eileen told him she didn't blame Alberto. She blamed Rouvel for not explaining things clearly. Rouvel felt deep remorse, but Eileen stepped closer and teased him playfully since he was already feeling sorry. That made Rouvel very happy. The grandmother, meanwhile, couldn't tell which of them was the boy. Eileen then said to Rouvel, "I know you worry about me, but when you use me as bait, at least tell me beforehand," because she couldn't control her anger at him otherwise. Rouvel agreed. Eileen then told Rouvel they needed to think together about how they would deal with the black-hearted one. Rouvel asked who that was, and Eileen said it was Raphael, the arrogant and spiteful one, which made everyone laugh. Rouvel liked the description, but Eileen added that Rouvel was also black-hearted, which shocked him. He pulled Eileen into a hug, overjoyed. Roran then said he would lighten the mood so everyone could enjoy the day. Roran and the servants went to the garden to play hide-and-seek with Eileen. Eileen began counting while everyone hid. She started searching everywhere but couldn't find anyone after a long while, and felt sad until Roran appeared and told her he'd help. He began catching the servants one by one, making Eileen happy. Rouvel joined in too, helping to find the servants to make Eileen even happier. When Rouvel finished finding everyone, he asked Eileen what she thought. Eileen told him she had been playing with Roran and the servants, and asked him not to interfere, which made Rouvel terribly embarrassed. He apologized, and Eileen asked the servants to play again. They agreed immediately. Eileen started counting again, and as she did, Rouvel came up and asked if he could join the game, but Eileen completely ignored him. Rouvel begged her earnestly, and Eileen's grandmother noticed how much joy the girl had brought into the house. Then it was time for Eileen to say goodbye and return to the spirit world. Eileen asked her grandmother if she could come back again to play. The grandmother didn't object, and told her she could come anytime she wanted. The grandmother came closer, and Eileen kissed her. She then asked Roran to come near so she could kiss him too. Salvile told Eileen she was always welcome anytime. Eileen told Alberto that if anything ever happened to him, he he shouldn't hesitate to talk to Salvile. Alberto thanked Eileen, but she told him not to overdo it. Alberto told her he was grateful to her, then went down on one knee, and Eileen kissed him, surprising everyone. But Salvile told them that Eileen hadn't really kissed him, while Rovale teasingly told Salvile that Eileen simply didn't like beards. When Rovale carried Eileen, he told her he wanted to talk to Salvile for a bit and asked her to go back. Eileen agreed, but before leaving, kissed Salvile. Then Rovale and Salvile went inside together with the gold. Salvile suggested they use the mine, and Roran thought it was a great idea, but said they should check it first. Salvile then admitted to Rovale that he had saved him, that Rovale's leadership had spared their family from ruin, and that ever since Rovale's return, luck had been smiling on them. Roran confirmed things hadn't been going well before. Rovale then proposed that Salvile bring his wife and daughter to the house since his mother was curious to meet them. Roran agreed that it was a wonderful idea. Rovale then asked Salvile who the woman he had revived was. Salvile replied that she was a waitress at a restaurant downtown named Arya, and that she had a daughter around Eileen's age named Raphaelia. He met her when he was dining with the knights, and Arya had treated him kindly at the time. But Rorn suggested that Arya be called home soon, yet Sauvel asked why there was such a hurry. Rorn said that Eileen is the only heir to the Vancraft family, but it's her duty to someday succeed Lady Origin as the Queen of Souls. Ravel wanted to prove to the royal family that the Vancraft family has a legitimate heir, because when Raphaciel ascends the throne, he might issue a royal decree forcing her to marry his son. Sauvel had also expected this, and he told Ravel that normally, someone who is separated isn't allowed to remarry before 3 years, but the royal family made an exception for him because of the Agile incident, so they could proceed quickly. Then Rorn asked what was making him hesitate, and told him that one shouldn't keep the one they love waiting any longer. But Ravel asked Sauvel to bring his wife and daughter along tomorrow. Then we moved to Raphaciel's house. He was watching his son from the window as he trained in combat, but his thoughts were also with Rovel and Eileen. Then we moved to Ravel's house, where the servants welcomed Arya and Revelia. Sauvel and Ravel were waiting for them, and Sauvel introduced his wife and daughter to Ravel. Ravel greeted them warmly, and told Arya that he was Sauvel's older brother, then asked Arya to take good care of Sauvel, which made Arya a bit nervous. Then Sauvel told Arya, "Come on, let me show you the mansion." Arya and Revelia began meeting the rest of the family, and Arya moved into her new room. She even helped the servants prepare food and wash clothes. While she was in her room, she saw Sauvel talking to Rovel. Then we moved to the kitchen where Rorn was tasting the food. Next, Sauvel told Rovel that Arya would only invite her relatives. Then we moved to Revelia and Arya picking new clothes. Ravel and Sauvel met them in the hallway, but Ravel's gaze toward Arya wasn't pleasant. Then we moved to the spirit world. Eileen saw that Ravel was helping Sauvel appropriately, but Ori wasn't happy about it. She told Eileen that things weren't right because Ravel was sitting among women, but Eileen believed he was only helping Sauvel, which made Ori upset. Ravel then joined them, and Ori was still angry. Ravel asked Ori if something was bothering her, and Eileen explained to him that Ori was angry because he had been drinking among women, and they were flirting with him. Ravel was shocked and tried to explain, but Eileen told him that the smell of wine still lingered on him. Rovel apologized repeatedly to Ori, and told her he had kept his distance from them, and would stay by her side as much as possible until her anger passed. Then Eileen started feeling sleepy, and told them she would go to bed early, but Ravel wanted to talk to them about something. He told them that Sauvel's wedding date had been set, and that the royal family might attend. He asked Eileen if she didn't want to attend, and Eileen confirmed she wouldn't because she didn't want to see the black-hearted Raphaciel. Ori asked if she herself would attend, but Ravel said he had to show people he was married, even though he didn't like other men looking at his wife. Then Eileen went to bed. We returned to Ravel's house, where he made sure the royal family would attend. Sauvel thought it was bold of them to come after what Agil had done to him, but Ravel told him he should appear completely happy at the wedding. Sauvel asked about Eileen, and Ravel told him she would be absent. Both Sauvel and their mother and Rorn would likely be disappointed, but it was better for Eileen not to come. Then Arya came in to serve them tea. Sauvel asked where Rorn was, but Arya said she wanted to bring the tea herself. She served tea to Ravel first, then to Sauvel, but Ravel didn't seem interested at all. Sauvel then told Arya to go because she had a lot of preparations to do for tomorrow. Then we moved back to the spirit world, where Ori asked Eileen whether it was better to burn the world or drown it in water. Eileen tried to calm her down and told her that Arya was Uncle Sauvel's wife, and there was absolutely nothing between her and Ravel. But Ori said Arya was beautiful, while Eileen replied that she wasn't nearly as beautiful as Ori, and asked her if she thought she would win this battle. Eileen assured her she would win overwhelmingly, which made Ori hug Eileen. But then, Ori noticed that Arya looked at Ravel often. Eileen thought Ravel noticed too, but didn't want to get involved. Then we moved to the wedding. Raphaciel arrived with his wife and their 3 children. In the spirit world, Ravel and Ori were fully ready to go, and Eileen told them they looked amazing. Ori and Ravel kissed Eileen before leaving and told her not to come no matter what happened. Then we returned to Ravel's home, where he and his wife also went. Arya saw Ori and felt a little jealous, then asked, "Is she your wife?" Ravel told Arya he hadn't introduced them before, and said that yes, she was indeed his wife, Ori. Then we go back to the spirit world, where Eileen saw that as long as Ori was with Ravel, Arya wouldn't dare look at him again. Back at the palace, Sovel introduced Revelia to Ori. Ori told Revelia she looked about Eileen's age and hoped they'd become friends, though Arya didn't find the situation appropriate. Then we moved to the wedding ceremony. Ravel told Ori to look toward the royal family and explained that the king was Raphael and his wife Lalar, and they had 3 children: the first prince Gadiel, the second prince Russell, and the first princess Ciel. Then we shift to Eileen, who was watching from the spirit world and saw the black-hearted Raphael with his family, from whom the darkness radiated. Sovel and Arya stepped forward to be wed, and the priest began the ceremony, asking them to sign the contract. As Arya was about to sign, she felt a lightning-like jolt in her hand. Sovel asked her if she was okay, and she said she was fine, and apologized for her sudden reaction. Ravel and his wife were worried. Then we go to Eileen, who realized this was a sign of the Great Curse, and Raphael noticed it too. If people found out, the marriage would be considered invalid, and rumors might spread that the Vancraft family had been abandoned by their power. Eileen tried to think of a way to distract everyone. Everyone was uneasy, and Raphael started laughing at them, but Eileen appeared among them and cast a spell, showering them with diamonds, which caught everyone's attention and amazed the crowd. Ravel and Ori realized Eileen was the one who did it, and Eileen also realized her parents had recognized her, but everything went smoothly. Raphael thought it was incredible that this family possessed such power. Then Gael saw Eileen, and she saw him too, creating a strong attraction between them. While Gadiel was looking at Eileen, Raphael called to Gadiel and told them that they cannot make covenants with spirits, and this was an old mystery in the royal family, and since they are unable to obtain their blessings, they now have no choice but to rely on the Vancraft family. After Raphael finished his talk, Gadiel looked at where Eileen was, but she was no longer there. However, he looked at the diamond he had picked up, which Eileen had caused to appear. On the other side, Ori told Raphael that she believed Eileen had returned safely to the spirit world, and here Raphael felt reassured and happy now. However, she would hear something unpleasant as soon as they returned home. Raphael was waiting for them. When Raphael saw this, he asked Ori to step back. Then Raphael approached Raphael and told him that he did not see Eileen at the celebration, and Raphael told Raphael that she was feeling sick, so she did not attend the celebration. But Raphael said to Raphael that there was no need to lie, and that he also wanted to introduce his children to him, and also told him that things had become very interesting with the bride, which led to Raphael's anger, and he remembered what happened with Sauphiel's bride. But Raphael saw that his brother was a lucky man to be able to marry such a wonderful woman. Raphael was happy about this, and told Raphael that he would wait for him and his daughter after a week from their time, and would allow them to meet his children. Then he left. Then we moved to Sauphiel's room, where the servants were helping Arya change her clothes, but Raphael entered the room and asked the servants to leave them, but Ari asked them to be reassured that she was present. After the servants left, Raphael approached Arya and grabbed her hands and asked her to explain her position. Ori asked Raphael not to be violent with her. Then Raphael said to Arya that she has no idea, and that she gave the royal family the opportunity to set their eyes on Eileen, and this was because of her condemnation of the Great Var. Not only that, but the royal family knows about the matter, and he asked her if she realized the difficult situation she had put the Vancraft family in. Ori told Raphael that this was enough, but Arya was trembling with fear. Then Ori approached Raphael and told him that she knew he was afraid for her, and for Eileen too, because of his great love for them, but they had bad luck this time. She thought that the man with the black heart, Raphael, had good luck this time, but Raphael asked, "What will Eileen say?" Ori believed that Eileen would be fine because she was their daughter after all, and she was sure that Eileen would find a good way to surprise everyone just as she had done a little while ago. Then Ori asked Arya if she had the courage to offer her daughter Raphaelia as a sacrifice for a crime committed by someone else, and can you sacrifice a part of your liver for someone else? But Arya did not believe what she was hearing, and that she could not do this. Ori here told her that she now understood what she meant, and told her that in exchange for keeping her condemnation secret, the royal family demanded their dear daughter Eileen. Then Ori told Arya that she lied when she said she agreed to Sauphiel, and that she was thinking of another man. Raphael told Arya that that bruise on your hand is a condemnation from the Great Var, and that it is proof of the sin of a false oath before Var, and he asked her if she did not love Sauphiel and was manipulating him. But Arya denied this, but Raphael shouted at her. Ori had another opinion and approached Arya and said that the bruise was still visible, and this means that she does love Sauphiel indeed. Raphael asked what this means. Ori thought that Arya knew well what this meant, and told her that this was a warning from the great sister Var, and asked her to love Sauphiel and not let her eyes be on anyone else but him, and if she walked on this path, it would be the path of destruction, which led to Arya's crying when she heard this. Ari healed Arya's bruise and made it completely disappear, but it was visible only to her, and it would not disappear until she loved Safiel with all her heart. Rufiel said angrily to Arya that she should not tell Safiel about this. Then we moved to Eileen, who was watching her parents with Arya, and thought that when Agia leaves, her uncle Safiel will find happiness. She thought this was the first time she found her parents this angry, but she would now declare war on Ravisiel. Then we moved to Ravisiel's carriage with his family, and Gadiel remembered Eileen when he saw her, and was keeping the diamond he had picked up. He asked Ravisiel why the royal family cannot make a covenant with spirits. Ravisiel told them that they cannot make a covenant and also cannot approach them at all, and that this was because of an old mystery. Then we moved to Arsa in her room, and she was feeling sad and asking herself what should she do, because they told her not to tell Safiel, and that she must love Safiel with all her heart as Ori told her. Then Safiel came to her and asked her if she was okay. Arya apologized to Safiel because she was late in coming, and Safiel told her that this did not matter, and the most important thing for him was that Arya was okay because he saw that she was not well. Arya believed she was fine, and asked Safiel to stay in her room for a longer period, and Safiel allowed her to do so. Then we moved to Eileen, who was in the library and had collected a large collection of books. Fint, one of the servants, came to her and told her that she might be reprimanded by her parents if she made a mess. Eileen told Fint not to worry because she was gathering intelligence information about their enemy and that they were not angry because of this and did not allow them to get angry in the first place. Fint asked her if she wanted to know something. "Why don't you ask me?" And she would find what she was looking for faster this way. Then Eileen asked Fint if he knew anything about the curse that the spirits cast on the royal family. This led to Fint's surprise that Eileen knew this. Eileen said that she saw black fog emanating from the royal family, and when she asked her mother, she told her it was a curse from the spirits. Fint said, "Indeed, you can see it." Fint told her that he did not know much, and that he thought she was too young for this. Eileen told him that she had moved past that with him because she was looking for information about their enemy. Fint asked, "What do you mean by our enemy?" Eileen said it was Ravisiel, because he had leverage over the Vancraft family, and was using it to summon her and Rufiel to the castle against their will. Fint felt angry when he heard this, and asked how dare they do that again. But he remembered Eileen's presence with him, and this is what calmed him down. Here Eileen discovered that Fint knew something about this, and that she must know. Fint agreed to tell Eileen and told her that everything happened 200 years ago during the Beast Storm, and that the actions taken by the king at that time to fight the storm were what caused this curse. Eileen asked, what exactly did the king do? Fint said that the king asked the Queen of the Spirits to come out to tip the scales of the battle, and naturally they could not submit to his request, because the Queen would not lend her power to humans for something like this. At that time, the king decided to resort to doing something forbidden. After night fell, Eileen was in her room, and her parents came to her. Rufiel told Eileen that he was not angry at her for coming to the party. Eileen approached her parents, but she was feeling sad. She told Ori that Fint told her everything about the curse. Rufiel felt shocked. Ari asked Eileen, "You were the one who asked him, weren't you?" But Ori saw that Eileen was a good girl, and that she did not want to tell her so as not to break the curse. But they, the spirits, did not forgive the royal family. She asked her to understand this. Eileen was also angry and told them that the royal family was very rude for continuing to live comfortably, oblivious to the reason for the curse. Rufiel apologized to Eileen, and Eileen told him not to apologize because she also had human blood, and that she loved everyone in her family. Moreover, she was the daughter of both of them, and she was proud of this. She told her father not to worry at all, and what cannot be ignored is the royal family that is still trying to use the power of the spirits, and is oblivious to the enormity of its sin, which led to Rufiel being very happy with his daughter, and he hugged her. Ori asked Eileen if she saw what happened. Eileen said indeed, if she meant Ravisiel's declaration of war on them, but she was excited about it, and was completely ready, which led to Ari's laughter, and she was indeed sure that she was Rufiel's daughter. But Eileen did not want to hear this. Rufiel thought his daughter was in a rebellious phase. Then Eileen approached Ori and asked her what happened after that, but Ori told her that Arya went and told Safiel about her sin after Rufiel prevented her from doing so. She thought she was a foolish girl. Safiel canceled the reception in the middle of it, and the house was in great commotion. Rufiel told Safiel that he was very angry and that he would not return home for some time. Eileen felt sad for her uncle Safiel, and asked Rufiel if there was any objection if she visited grandmother and Roran too, when Arya was not there. Rufiel hesitated to reply, and told her that he announced he would not return there, and therefore it was difficult to visit them. Eileen insisted that she wanted to see grandmother and Roran and Safiel and Alberto too, and was very insistent on this, and that she wanted to go tomorrow because it was urgent. Then Rufiel and Eileen moved to the palace, but from outside. Eileen said to Rufiel, "You could have entered the palace." But Rufiel told her that this was a bit difficult. Then Eileen moved inside, and Rufiel was with her. But Roran told grandmother that this way she was choking Eileen. Grandmother released Eileen immediately. Roran also missed Eileen, and Eileen also missed him very much. Grandmother said that the house had almost settled down, but something else happened that saddened her. Waylene asked the grandmother not to cry, and the grandmother told her that she was happy to have her in the house. Then Saufel and Arya came to them, and Eileen stepped forward to welcome them. Saufel asked Arya to return the greeting to Eileen, and asked Rofel if he wanted to tell Arya something. Rofel told Saufel that Eileen was the one who wanted to talk to Arya. Then Arya approached Eileen and asked her what she wanted to talk about. Waylene told her it wasn't a conversation, but actually a warning, which surprised Arya. She looked at Saufel, and Saufel told Arya that Eileen was Raphelia's age, but she was an unusual child, and he asked her to take her words seriously. Then Eileen said to Arya that Ori considered Uncle Saufel's feelings and cast a spell on you so that only you could see your sin. However, you disobeyed my father's orders not to tell anyone, but you went and told my uncle. Arya told her that she did this because Ori told her to love her uncle, and that she shouldn't hide anything from the one she loves. Eileen asked Arya, "Do you think Uncle Saufel will forgive you if you tell him? And who will forgive someone who confesses that they're thinking of someone else at the altar? And it's a great insult to our family," which shocked Arya from Eileen's talk with her. The grandmother said that Eileen was right, and that Saufel told you about Agel's actions, yet you're doing the same thing. Arya denied this immediately, and told them that she would be a member of the family, so it's natural to seek the approval of her new brother. Eileen discovered that Arya now admitted that her feelings were impure, so she was punished by the Great Far, and the king also knows this. Saufel stepped forward to apologize, and Eileen told him it wasn't his fault at all. She said to Arya that their family, beloved by the spirits, is indispensable to the royal family, and Arya knew this because it's obvious due to Rofel's presence here. Eileen shouted at Arya and told her it's more than that, and that the reason the king pursues their family is not because of my father's title. Above all, they need his power, because he possesses great power to the extent that it keeps neighboring countries under control. But your selfish actions risk stripping their kingdom of its strength. Arya didn't understand anything at all, and asked Eileen what she was talking about. Eileen said to Arya that because of her, Rofel announced that he wouldn't return to this house again, for fear of straining her relationship with Uncle Saufel. And if her father, who is an essential part of their military strength, disappeared from the human world, the royal family might see it this way. If the nuisance disappeared, the hero might return, and getting rid of the nuisance would fix everything. This shocked Arya when she heard the word nuisance. Eileen frankly told Arya that she was talking about her and asked her, "Why do you think the royal family attended Uncle Saufel's wedding after what happened with Agil?" She told her that this was to assess her value, not just to know whether she was worthy or not, but also to determine your importance and value as a person. However, you did nothing but drag them down, which made Arya cry a lot. The grandmother said to Arya that there are many women who fall in love with Rofel at first sight, and perhaps it was inevitable that you would be one of them. However, Saufel was very happy to be able to marry you. Arya said that she really loves Saufel. Eileen asked her to stop her impure feelings toward her father Rofel, which only put her life at risk. She warned her that if she continued to pursue her father, Ori and Eileen would show her no mercy, and she would be crushed slowly and certainly. Then she smiled at her and told her that she had been warned, which made Arya feel very afraid. After that, Arya lost consciousness, but Saufel saved her, and said that despite all this, he loves her very much. Ori was on the other side watching what was happening. After Arya was taken to her room, Saufel stepped forward and apologized to Eileen for forcing her to say such things at her young age. Eileen apologized for not being able to stay silent and thought she had overstepped her boundaries. Saufel believed that without Eileen, this family would have collapsed, and he thanked her. Then Eileen asked her father if they should head to the castle now, right? Rofel confirmed this, but he didn't want to go. The grandmother suggested that Eileen needs a new dress now, and Rofel also needs a new outfit. The grandmother asked Roran to bring their best seamstress immediately. Roran confirmed that he would make all the arrangements. Eileen was shocked by this. Saufel told Eileen that the grandmother wanted to have a daughter, so she's exaggerating a lot. Eileen took advantage of the situation and called the servants to clean her, and asked her uncle to share this fate with her too. But since he didn't want to get close, she asked Rofel to hold Saufel, which made Rofel lunge towards Saufel to grab him. Eileen brought out a sharp tool to remove his beard from his face. After that, Saufel appeared with a very good appearance. Eileen thought of making Saufel handsome so that Arya wouldn't see anyone else but him. Rofel also wanted this. While Gadiel was walking in his own castle, he remembered Eileen once more. Then his father Ravisiel called out to him and told him that Rofel was coming to the castle with his daughter and that he would introduce him to them. Then we moved to Rofel's house, and Eileen put on new clothes, which caused the grandmother to be amazed by Eileen's beauty, and she told her that she looked absolutely wonderful. She also told Rofel that he looked great too, but not with the same enthusiasm. Rofel thought she was only making a passing comment to him. Then Rorn came to them and told them that the carriage was ready to transport transport them. However, Rofel told Rorn that they would use instant transportation. Eileen discovered that Rofel was thinking that if they went there and wanted to escape, they could use instant teleportation so that it wouldn't be bothersome for the carriage driver. Rofel confirmed Eileen's statement, and the grandmother told Eileen to do her best and defeat Ravasiel. Sofel also wished success for Eileen, but Rofel told them that they were not going to a battle. Ori in the other world was watching them, and she asked Rofel to protect Eileen well. After that, they teleported to King Ravasiel's castle. However, Rofel stopped and said he didn't want to do this, but Eileen told him there was no point in complaining and asked him to go and settle the matter. But Rofel saw that Eileen was very enthusiastic. However, Eileen wanted to speak to Ravasiel directly, which shocked Rofel, and she asked him to go quickly. When Rofel approached the castle gate, the guards were surprised, and one of them asked, "Who is this girl that Rofel is carrying?" Then Rofel and Eileen moved to Ravasiel's room, and Ravasiel welcomed them and told them he had been waiting for them. Then Eileen greeted Ravasiel and introduced herself to him. Ravasiel said he had been longing to see her. Eileen said to Ravasiel, "Really?" which made him laugh, and he said, "You are truly Rofel's daughter." But Eileen told Ravasiel that she didn't like hearing that, which shocked Rofel. Rofel saw that Eileen's rebellious phase was absolutely terrible, and he was crying in front of Ravasiel, but he stopped and remembered he was in front of an opponent and shouldn't do this. Then Ravasiel asked them to sit on the couch. Then Ravasiel apologized to Rofel because of his engagement to Agel, and told him that she no longer lived in the city because she had caused many problems, and their father was responsible for resolving these problems, so they went to live in a castle outside the city. Here, Eileen discovered and said to herself that Ravasiel had exploited his younger sister's mistakes and had driven his father out of the city. Ravasiel continued speaking and said that, unfortunately for Saufel, his new wife had become like Agel. He told him that everyone knows because this is a rumor circulating among the nobles these days. Eileen asked Ravasiel why such rumors spread. Ravasiel thought Eileen was too young to know such information. Eileen rebuked Ravasiel and told him he was lying because he brought up the subject while knowing that she was capable of understanding it. Here, Ravasiel understood how Eileen was able to control Alberto. Eileen thought that Ravasiel was very cunning because Alberto went to beg Ravasiel about the Fancroft family's problem, and Ravasiel used this against him, which was incredible. She told him that the appropriate thing would have been to make Alberto a double agent, but she didn't do that. However, she also doesn't know Ravasiel's opinion of Alberto, but she doesn't feel he is suitable to be a spy, which caused Ravasiel to be amazed by Eileen's words, and that she was wonderful. Then he said to her, "So you really do know the source of the rumors about Sofel's wife, don't you?" Eileen saw that Ravasiel was testing her. She thought that he was trying to exploit these rumors in order to negotiate with Rofel. She also discovered that since the rumors spread, but it wasn't him who spread them. She told him the queen is the one who spread them, but Ravasiel asked why her. Eileen said that Arya's look at Rofel was very clear to any woman, and she must have realized that something would happen when she canceled the reception party in the middle of it. The truth is that spreading rumors about the Fancroft family is not an easy thing, because they are a ducal family, so the source of the rumor must be a person of high or equal status. This is what leads her to think that Queen Alar is the one who did it, which caused Ravasiel to be amazed by Eileen's intelligence for the second time. Ravasiel said he didn't speak one word about condemnation, which caused Eileen to wonder about the word condemnation, and asked Rofel, but he told her he knew nothing. Eileen thought the rumors about Arya were because of her attachment to her bad habits with men. She asked him, "What do you mean by condemnation?" Ravasiel said he meant condemning the bone rat. He told them there is a thorn bruise on Arya's wrist just like Agel had too, and he thought hiding it would only bring much trouble later. Here, Eileen discovered that the royal family hates them, and yet she never imagined that they would resort to spreading unfounded rumors. Rofel confirmed Eileen's words and said to her, "So let's go home." They started to move, which caused Ravasiel to become angry, and told them he hadn't finished talking yet. He said it seems he was carried away by assumptions and apologized to them, and told them his wife was wrong about this. Eileen asked Ravasiel if he was sure about this, and she asked him what would happen to the reputation of the royal family if whoever spread the rumor about her retracted it. Ravasiel didn't expect that Eileen was this intelligent, and Ravasiel asked Eileen, "Are you sure that things are as they are?" Eileen replied to Ravasiel with a question, "Is this what you were seeking from the beginning?" The reason being that he swore to her father that he would bring her here before the rumors spread. Suddenly, Ravasiel asked Eileen to be his daughter, and asked her what she thought, which made Rofel angry at this, and he had previously asked Ravasiel to reduce his contact with his family. Eileen refused immediately, and told Raphael that she had only one father and did not want anyone else, which made Ravel happy. He embraced Eileen. Raphael wanted to introduce Eileen to his son Gadel, but Ravel refused this and carried Eileen to leave. However, Raphael asked the guards to bring his sons, and told Eileen that she would love them, and he was confident about this. He also told her that they were loved by noble girls and royal families. Eileen thought they were loved for money and power. Raphael clarified that fathers are like this, but the girls truly love his sons. Eileen saw that they had their admirers, so she did not need her. Raphael said they were very handsome, and Eileen told him she was used to Ravel, and beauty meant nothing to her. Then Eileen asked Ravel to return home, which caused Raphael to feel despair. Ravel asked, what kind of girl was this? Ravel told Raphael that he would not be able to overcome Eileen, because he himself could not, being her father. After Raphael introduced his son Gadel and Rassel, Ravel also introduced himself, but Eileen felt something strange when she saw Gadel because she had seen him before. Gadel noticed this and was about to approach her to check on her, but Eileen asked Gadel not to come near because she saw him like she saw Raphael. Gadel insisted on checking on Eileen, but each time he approached, terrifying spirits appeared to Eileen, which caused Ravel to protect her and embrace her tightly. Raphael asked what was happening. Ravel said that because of this, he did not want to deal with them, but Raphael did not understand anything. Then spirits from Raphael also appeared, asking Eileen to save them, and only she could see this. When a spirit approached Eileen and asked her to save it, Eileen screamed, which caused Raphael and his sons pain in their ears from the force of the voice. Suddenly, the past of the king appeared before Eileen. When he went to the Queen of Spirits and asked her to lend them her power, and when she did not open the door for him, he used spirit sorcerers. Other spirits from animals and people came to bring spirits to this place. The guards tied all spirit sorcerers to sacrifice them. Eileen watched all of this and cried and asked them to stop, which caused Rassel to fall to the ground and lose consciousness. But Eileen continued watching the king, asking the Queen of Spirits to lend them her power to eliminate the spirits, which caused the spirits to appear and approach Eileen asking for help. But Eileen refused and screamed loudly. Ravel told them to move away and directed a blow at them, which caused them to distance themselves from Eileen. On the other side, Gadel and Raphael also fell and felt severe pain. Then Raphael asked Ravel, what was this? Ravel answered that this was the curse of the spirits that was imposed on him and on the entire royal family. Gadel also lost consciousness. After Ravel left with Eileen, Raphael also lost consciousness. Then we moved to Ravel's house. He placed Eileen in bed, and Ori came to them also to check on Eileen. She patted Eileen's head and asked her to sleep, and that she was fine now and safe. Ravel asked Ori if Eileen was okay. Ori said her temperature was high, but there was no need to worry. Ori said that as she thought, the matter was very difficult for her, and Ravel should not have allowed this meeting. Ori said they witnessed the curse and that Eileen was the cause of this, and the spirits realized that Eileen was Ori's daughter, so they came to her to save her. Then we moved to Raphael's palace. He began to wake up. The wise man told Raphael not to move, and informed him that Gadel and Rassel were unconscious, but they were safe. After that, the spirit festival arrived, which caused people to celebrate. Raphael and his family were praying to the spirits. When they went, Gadel and Rassel did not move. Rassel told Gadel that they all moved. While they were walking together, Rassel wished that these prayers would reach the spirits, and they offer them every year at the spirit festival. But what happened was 200 years ago. He asked if they could forgive them, because the matter also had nothing to do with them. Gadel said to himself that the spirits did not avoid the royal family, and that he had found this in an old book in a secret room. What the royal family did and their way of treating the spirits angered those they should never have angered. What he saw then and what those things were, he understood now. Gadel continued visiting the spirit cemetery because in this place the tragedy of 200 years ago occurred. Gadel believed there was no use in prayers or human regret, and what remained was their struggle with the spirits. Raphael's family continued to go repeatedly whenever the spirit festival came. Gadel also waited alone and said to himself, "Where are you, Eileen?" And he wanted to see her, even for a moment, to apologize to her for that day. And he wished that the day would come when she and the spirits would forgive him. Eileen on the other side was listening to Gadel's words, which caused her to cry after Gadel left. Then we moved to Ravel's palace. Ori told Eileen that the spirits wanted humans to understand what they had committed, so a curse was placed on the king that made him hear the screams of the spirits. The king continued to hear those screams until his death, but the curse was placed on the king alone at that time, and it was not possible for it to transfer to his offspring. Eileen asked why the spirits continued with Raphael and his sons. Ori said because the same spirits who found no refuge clung to the blood of the royal family and cursed it. Eileen understood that this was the dark cloud. Ori told her that this is why the royal family is still cursed until this day. She told Eileen that she knew she went to the spirit festival, and that her nature pushed her to worry and to pain, and to try to break the curse, which is why she did not tell her all the details before. Eileen asked her mother that she wanted to save the spirits that were still tormented, and that she wanted to free them from pain, suffering, and humiliation. Ori knew that Eileen would say this. Eileen asked if she was capable of freeing those spirits. Ori saw that this was difficult, and that humans only offered symbolic prayers at every festival, and did not thank the spirits, and did not reflect daily on what they had committed, which is why they were not forgiven yet. Ori also said that she was not in a position of blame, as she had taken Ravel as her husband, and she asked Eileen not to get more involved with the cursed humans and the lost spirits. And this was Ori's advice to Eileen.